WATD presents John Paul, the Car Doctor. All things automotive. Have questions? Call 781-837-4900. Now, here's John Paul, the Car Doctor.
And good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD, the South Shores radio station. And it's going to be a good program today. We're going to learn a lot. With us on the phone is Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports, and he has, I'm sitting here with the 2023 auto issue, and I think this, in my opinion, is probably one of the most popular issues that come out. Mike, good morning, and welcome back to the Car Doctor program.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
So, am I right? Is this issue one of the most popular issues?
Absolutely. I mean, some people become subscribers to Consumer Reports just to get the April issue, and I know we're all going digital with our tablets and our phones, but there actually still is a market for paper magazines, and people like to laugh about a newsstand. Yes, there are still newsstands, and yes, we still sell single issue copies of Consumer Reports April issue, which is all about cars. So, listen, I'm all for modern technology, but I'm also glad that paper isn't dead.
Yeah, me as well, considering I write for about 6 different newspapers. So that'd be good. Plus, plus AAA's publications. So it is nice that there still are people that kind of like the tactile feel of flipping through a magazine, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I think this one's pretty jam-packed with a lot of real interesting stuff. Everything from will an electric car save you money to, say no to some things at car dealerships? And, of course, there's always the best and worst list, which I think is one of the most fascinating parts of things to look at. Which are some of the best cars to buy? Which are some that maybe you don't want to?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that really separates Consumer Reports from a lot of other automotive publishers, and that is, we're gonna tell you what's good, but we're also going to tell you what isn't so good. And being that Consumer Reports is independent, we don't take advertising. We really can give the lowdown on all makes and models, including the ones that you should definitely avoid.
And one of the things, and I am certainly jealous, probably as is everybody else, that I'll occasionally road test a car for a week, maybe sometimes even just a little bit longer, and I've been doing this for a whole bunch of years, so I'll get a good feeling of the vehicle. But you guys own the vehicles, and you guys kind of live with them day in and day out before you really render an opinion, which I think really makes it something special.
Yeah, that's a great point. At Consumer Reports, we buy all of the products that we test. Occasionally, we will rent a new model from a manufacturer just to get an idea of what it's like, but we never take a rented model and do any testing, or it doesn't appear in our ratings. So all the models that in Consumer Reports ratings are ones that we bought, and we live with them for about 12 months. We probably put anywhere from 6 to almost 20,000 miles on them, and it isn't just instrumented testing on our track. I mean, we do 0 to 60 and braking and fuel economy and all that other stuff, but we live with these cars day in and day out. We take them to Home Depot, we take them to the grocery store, we take them on vacation, we put our kids in them, whether they're grown like my kids, or a number of my colleagues have young kids that are still in child safety seats, so we're always installing seats and seeing how family-friendly these cars are. So, we really do live and breathe our car experience.
And, one of the things that we've been saying when we talk about cars, and I probably stole it from somebody else, was, you have to road test the tech as much as you road test the cars today. And one of your folks, Kelly Funkhauser, she's I've met her a couple times now, and she really kind of looks at the tech part of the car as much as the other parts of it. And, is your iPhone going to work with the car? Is the Android going to work with the car? Is some of the safety systems going to work the way that maybe the advertising says it is?
Yeah, I know. Kelly is awesome. She's super smart. She's studying the latest tech in cars, and that is about mostly about advanced driver safety. We put $1 million in building a driving loop at our closed course track. It'll allow us to better determine the efficiency of these advanced driver safety systems, such as lane centering assistance, adaptive cruise control, driver monitoring, and all that stuff. So we are bracing for the future. It's coming. It has a lot more hands-off stuff, which has its own pros and cons, obviously. And as you mentioned, a lot more stuff going on with electric vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at, I guess, part of the magazine, the brands that make the best cars, and I got to tell you, a surprise to see BMW at the top of the list. I love BMWs; they're great to drive. I never really considered them the best car, but seeing them at the top of the list is pretty interesting.
What they do is, I think some of the German models kind of go through these surges of really good reliability and then kind of just so-so reliability. And I think BMW is one of those manufacturers. You don't always know exactly how they're going to turn out, kind of like Audi. Sometimes, last year Audi came in third in brand in overall brand ranking, and this year they dropped to ninth. Ninth is still pretty good when you consider we're looking at 32 manufacturers. And last year BMW was number 2, and now they're number 1. So the BMWs typically do really well in our testing. Owners have reported at least average reliability, which is actually pretty good. But they've also got a big bump in owner satisfaction. When you're talking about what makes up a good car or a good brand, it is all of those things. It's road test score, it's reliability, it's owner satisfaction, and it's easy to recommend a number of BMW models.
Yeah, it really is these days. I think you're right, and the idea that BMW reliability has kind of varied over the years, and even when maybe their reliability wasn't great, they were still awfully good cars to drive, and I think that made a real difference. I happen to have the luxury right now of driving a BMW iX, and it's the M series, so it is one of the smoothest, fastest vehicles I ever drove. It just happens to be electric, which makes it really interesting.
I think you and I have probably fond memories of cars of the 60s and 70s and the whole era of muscle cars and a 427 Shelby Cobra and stuff like that. All of these electric cars put those old muscle cars on a trailer. As you know as well as anybody else, the acceleration from a lot of these EVs is just fierce. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think you say that put it on a trailer. I think if you took this car, and it's not in the U.S. set up to tow, but I think if you put a trailer behind this car and put a 351 Mustang on the trailer, it would beat a new Mustang in a drag race.
Probably. The fastest a 351 Mustang had ever gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it is really sort of interesting. So when it comes down to looking at the top picks, there are still some very traditional cars in the top picks. Looking at the small car category, the Corolla hybrid. The Corolla's. Is it the most popular selling nameplate in the world?
I think it is. I think a few years ago it surpassed the Volkswagen Beetle as being the top seller. Obviously Volkswagen stopped selling the traditional Beetle a long time ago, but for many years the Beetle was number 1, and the Corolla I think has zoomed past.
And the Beetles were pretty good too, but that's a different topic. So yeah.
We all get a little well. We're not in the car business if we don't have a certain amount of nostalgia, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the one that the next one down in the sort of subcompact SUV category is a car I have never driven, which is the Corolla Cross, and I've read a lot about it, and it's a very functional, very good car.
Toyota's smart. They're taking a really good platform like the Corolla, and they're making more of it. They're doing obviously you mentioned the Corolla hybrid, but the Corolla Cross is one of those cars that for people that want a little bit more space. They don't want a gigantic SUV like a Chevrolet Tahoe, but they need more utility than just sort of a small four-door car. And the Corolla Cross is one of those cars on Consumer Reports' top picks list that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. Starting around $23,000, delivers about 28 miles per gallon overall in Consumer Reports testing. It does a lot of things well, including that awesome traditional reliability from Toyota.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, when people used to ask me about Toyotas all the time, and I would say to them, they're super reliable. Maybe there's not a lot of passion in the vehicle, but if you're just looking for something to get in every day, it's going to start up, it's going to do everything you want to do. The Corolla, even the most basic Corolla was a perfect vehicle for that. Again, it didn't, if it was ice cream, it'd be like low-fat vanilla, but it was it was a very good car to, own and drive.
Yeah, my kids are around college age, and so the parents of my kids' friends are talking to me about getting used cars for their driving age kids, and almost every time it's like, have you looked up a used Corolla, because they are really fuel efficient, and the later models have tons of safety features, so it's an easy car to recommend.
It really is, and that must be part of your job with what you do. I'm sure every time you go somewhere, people are like, "Hey, Mike, what should I buy? What do you think of this?" And the answers are always not that simple.
Exactly, and it depends what your situation is. It depends what you need a car for. It depends what your budget is, and all that stuff. And you're very kind in saying that. People are always asking me questions. My brother's a doctor, and he's gotten into the habit of going into a new social situation and not telling anyone what he does for a living, because inevitably somebody says, "Oh yeah, I got a pain in my neck, my leg hurts." So he just tries to keep it quiet. But I'm a blabbermouth, so I'm always talking.
Well, that's okay. And one of my other favorite vehicles that's on your pick list here is the Maverick pickup truck, the hybrid version. I'm still not sure how Ford did it.
Yeah, I've done a number of interviews about Consumer Reports' April issue, and the Ford Maverick Hybrid is the one that I always talk about when someone says, "What surprised you about this top picks list?" And seeing the early edits of the magazine, obviously, and when the Maverick Hybrid was mentioned, I thought, "Wow, this is something special." I mean, when you're rooting for the home team like Ford, you want a pickup truck, but you don't need something huge like an F-150. You can look at a Maverick Hybrid, which starts around $22,000, and get this, it got 37 miles per gallon overall in Consumer Reports testing. I mean, I know it's not a huge truck that you can't tow a massive Airstream trailer with, but for utility of a homeowner, the Maverick is really tough to beat.
It really is, and I've seen a few of them around as work vehicles. I remember the very first one I saw was an electrician was using it, and I just happened to see him, and I said, "Hey, what do you think of the truck?" And he goes, "This has been the perfect truck for me." He says, "I don't carry a lot of stuff." He said, "Most of the stuff gets delivered to the job site." He said, "I just need to bring my tools with me. I love the idea it's a four-door. I can lock stuff in the back of it. When I do need to run down to the parts house to pick up a fuse box or something like that," he said, "it's easy enough to throw it in the back." He said, "This has been a perfect vehicle, and the gas mileage just makes it so easy to live with." And really pretty amazing that I think Ford built it for the price they're selling it for. Too bad they can't build them fast enough. Yeah.
I don't mean to dip into the nostalgia bandwagon again, but in the 70s, there were a whole lot of small pickup trucks. Toyota and Nissan, or back then it was called Datsun, sold small pickup trucks. There was the Chevy Love, there was the Ford Courier, and then just all the trucks got bigger and bigger. Even the Toyota Tacoma is a pretty big truck. I think the world can use more small trucks like the Maverick or the Hyundai Santa Cruz, just for the reasons I already mentioned. I mean, not everybody needs a hulking, beastly truck.
Yeah, you're right, and I am glad to see the Santa Cruz. I'm glad to see the Maverick, because for years I was on the same bandwagon as you. It was like, where's a nice, affordable, small truck that I can run to the store and pick up a big box of something. I'm not carrying 3,000 pounds of weight. I don't need to ever do that. I just want something that has a little bit more room in it than the back of my little SUV does. And, and I think these little pickup trucks are right. And, whether it was, the Chevy Love truck, which, wasn't but the idea that those trucks existed and they were pretty popular. And now when you see, if you happen to stumble across an original Toyota pickup or a Datsun pickup, you kind of look at them and go, those were pretty cool.
Yeah, they certainly were. What's interesting, though, is as you probably know, Subaru used to sell the Baja, which was a small truck, and I'm guessing the sales just weren't good enough, and they eventually dropped it. So I hope we don't see the same fate with the Hyundai and Ford model.
Yeah, I mean, not with the initial, first orders of the Maverick so far. At least, certainly that's not the case. One of the more popular vehicles, I think, it's been everybody's kind of golden child is the Kia Telluride, and it's still stacked up really well in your picks this year, right?
And not just this year. I mean, the Telluride has been on our Consumer Reports top picks since it's debuted in 2020. I mean, yeah, 2020 doesn't seem that long ago, but I guess it is. It is a vehicle that just does everything well. It is comfortable. It has a really nice interior. It has a smooth and powerful V6. Kia's been good about doing updates and freshening with it now and again to about 21 miles per gallon, which isn't bad for a 3-row SUV. The Telluride is such a good vehicle that the model that Consumer Reports tested was kept by the tire testing group because they needed an SUV to test tires, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll take the Telluride. So our tested Kia Telluride is still at the track, and I can't imagine how many miles it has on it now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty tough, and kind of right below that category, the Santa Fe Hybrid. Hyundai and Kia are sort of related in corporate structure, so you see a lot of overlap. But the Santa Fe by itself is a pretty impressive vehicle. As a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, even more impressive.
30 miles per gallon overall in Consumer Reports testing for the standard Santa Fe. The hybrid, the plug-in hybrid gives you about 31 miles of range. It has the hybrid gets a 226 horsepower turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. So normally you think about a hybrid, you might think of like a Toyota Prius, which has never been about performance or acceleration or anything. So you kind of look at Hyundai and it's like, well, you're putting a turbocharged engine along with the hybrid system for your Santa Fe, and that's pretty clever. And the car performed really well in Consumer Reports testing. I mean, it's got a roomy cabin. It's super easy to use controls, which more and more the cars that I get into these days are super complicated. And not to discredit this, but they're also including blind spot warning, lane keeping assist, and lane departure warning as standard safety features, and that's also a really good thing.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the ones, people think, they're going out, as people go out car shopping. I know a couple people, and one woman, she'll say it to me every time. I don't want to buy an electric car from a tech company. I want to buy it from a car company because I think car companies do a better job of building cars than tech companies do. But the Tesla Model 3 kind of hit a home run, right?
Everybody wants to talk about Tesla. I mean, everybody wants to talk about EVs. They're still only about 5% of the market. They keep going up, and there's certainly a future for EVs. But Tesla is certainly the golden child of electric vehicles. We found that our Model 3 was getting 358 miles of cruising range on a full charge. That's the top of the line Model 3. That is awesome. 358 miles for an EV is amazing. You mentioned about the incredible acceleration from electric vehicles. The Model 3 is right there with you. It is super quick. It actually has excellent steering, good handling, and the best part, and I think this is one of the reasons that Consumer Reports kind of tipped their hat to the Model 3 is the Tesla supercharging network. I mean, Tesla was very smart to start building an infrastructure for their cars, and that alone should make people probably consider a Tesla if they're in the market for an electric vehicle. They're doing a lot of things well, and you just got to keep watching. What are they going to be up to next?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you know that. Well, I don't know. I think the Cybertruck or whatever it's called. Maybe someday we'll see it, and maybe someday we'll see their $250,000 Roadster. Yeah, but right now, if they're building, the vehicles they're building, and they seem to be doing so well, and and I've yet to talk to anyone who's been unhappy with one, and they just tend to keep buying more of them when they keep them for a while and then kind of move on from there. It is again, it's such a rich publication, this April edition. Everything from things you should say no to at the car dealership. I'm still amazed that car dealers are trying to still sell paint sealant and nitrogen filled tires and things like that. But I guess it's still out there, and they want to just kind of roll it into the payment process.
It's in some ways it's kind of easy money for the dealers. These kinds of add-ons don't really cost them much money, and they can charge a lot for them. I know here in Connecticut, when you buy a car in Connecticut, the dealer is required to offer you VIN etching, and that's etching your vehicle identification number in glass in various parts of your car. You are not required to take it. And so I've bought, 162 cars for the Consumer Reports test program, and sometimes VIN etching is pre-printed on the purchase order, which is kind of obnoxious, but you just take your pen, you cross it out, and say, I'm not going to pay that. Yeah. And but they're always kind of pushing it. You don't have to take it. You don't really need it. You're right about rust proofing and fabric protection and nitrogen. I mean, it is all just kind of profit, and I don't want to say greed, but listen, buying cars has always been tough. Car dealers have always had a bad reputation. I got to tell you, anecdotally, from my own experience trying to buy cars throughout COVID, it's definitely gotten worse. Supplies are limited, prices are up, dealers don't want to negotiate for nothing, and it's been a very, very tough time, certainly for us, just to buy a test car.
Yeah, and like you pointed out, you've bought 160 cars. Most people in their lifetime maybe buy half a dozen or 10 or something. And let's face it, the dealers are a lot better at selling than you are at buying.
Well, listen, they've got the product, and it's limited. It kind of reminded me of Honda dealers in the '80s when everybody wanted a Honda, and Honda just wasn't they just weren't building many. And the dealers said, listen, you want the car that everybody else wants? Well, this is the price. You take it or leave it, because if you don't buy it, somebody else will, and that's what's going on right now. I think that supplies are going to catch up. I think supply chain issues and microchips and all that stuff is going to catch up. Car makers are going to start building more cars like they usually do, and you're going to start seeing dealers advertising cars for at sticker price or below sticker or rebates and blah blah blah, like they have always done in the traditional marketplace. But still, right now, I mean, I'm having the darndest time trying to buy some. First of all, we can't get them, and if we can get them, I'm trying to buy a new Prius for the test program. There's a dealer that wanted $6,000 over MSRP for a Prius. Okay? I know it's a good car. I know it's fuel efficient. Consumer Reports reliability ratings, they're lights out. They're really, really good. But $6,000 over for a Prius? Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, it's, especially where there is, when the Prius was the only hybrid around, and gas got expensive, spiked high for whatever that period was, maybe you could sort of understand it. But there are a lot of hybrid choices around right now, and to be trying to get $6,000 over sticker is crazy. You mentioned, surprises and disappointments. The Maverick was a very pleasant surprise. What was there one disappointment in kind of the latest 2023 car lineup that you can think of?
Well, sometimes we get Consumer Reports get some grief because not more, say, American cars, or I should say American branded cars, aren't on our top picks list. So it's good to see Ford, and obviously Tesla is an American car. So I suppose there's some I don't know, sort of concerned, but I think the domestics can do probably better in their reliability homework. But when people say, well, I want to buy American, a lot of these cars are actually built in the United States. So maybe if I have any disappointment, maybe it's a lack of Detroit showing up and really knocking it out like they sometimes can do. I mean, the redesigned Chevrolet Corvette did really well in Consumer Reports testing. We love this car. It actually came out to be about average in reliability, but it doesn't have standard safety features, so we can't recommend it. Now, we'd love to recommend the Corvette because, honestly, we love driving it. But Chevrolet, as well as every manufacturer in the world, has to step up their game when it comes to standard safety features. And, if they care about getting a Consumer Reports recommendation, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've covered the whole car section here. The Consumer Reports issue, it's the April issue. It's out now. Jesse and I, before the break, were talking about how the Red Sox managed to win their second game kind of in a real crazy way, a little pop-up fly that bounced out of the player's glove. In your mixology background, do you have a good cocktail for that guy that he was feeling bad afterwards? something strong and straight up. I have a recipe for a Vesper Martini made famous by James Bond, and that guy can come over. I'll sit him down. I'll pour him one of these, and after a while, he won't feel a thing. There you go. Hey, Mike, always a pleasure talking to you about everything automotive. Thank you for taking a little time out of your Sunday and joining us on the Car Doctor program.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
All right, take care, Mike. We need to take a break and pay some bills. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. Our phone number is 781-837-4900. Give us a call. Phone lines are open. We'll be right back.
AAA is with you at every moment in your life. They have 24-hour 7 roadside assistance, which covers you in any car you're driving or riding in, even a rental or your friend's wheels. They have great member rates on home and auto insurance, savings on travel, hotels, and rental cars, and discounts on hundreds of your favorite brands. You're covered on and off the road. Learn more at aaa.com/join.
Few make it big in motorsports, but the real reward for most is the thrill of the adrenaline and the chance to hold the checkered flag. I'm Miles Heger. The excitement and danger of motor racing are the reasons drivers love to race and why fans show up. Join me and my guests each week as we discuss the local short tracks while also sharing opinions and insight on NASCAR's National Series. Tune in to Miles on Motorsports Tuesday nights at 7 here on 95.9 WATD.
Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. If you would like to give us a call, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. Last week we had all the calls stack up in the last few minutes of the program, so if you want to give us a call and chat about what's on your mind about your car, 781-837-4900 is our number. Got an email this week. A person has a 2015 Kia Optima. At the time of the purchase, the car had 52,000 miles on it, and it was purchased at a used car dealer. The car now has 116, almost 117,000 miles on it. The car's been recalled due to an engine problem, and the dealer did not complete the recall, and they say they've never received a recall notice. As a result of the recall not being completed, the engine seized and needed to be replaced. Their question is the dealer responsible for the cost of the engine replacement, or am I? Well, the recall that never was completed, I guess, was the knock sensor recall. The knock sensor recall didn't do anything for the engine, really. What it really did was it listened to engine knock, just like spark knock would happen if you don't use the right fuel, and it would listen to engine knock, and if it started to detect some noise, bearing wear noise, it would turn on a check engine light, and the engine would reduce power so it literally didn't explode. And the idea that the recall didn't do anything really to preserve the engine because the engine was broken to start off with, if that happened. There was a bunch of class action suits, warranty extensions, things like that. The warranty, in some cases, the lower half of the engine, so what's called a short block, the piston, crankshaft, all that sort of stuff, those parts have a long warranty, and maybe you can get, maybe you can get somewhere with that. But the idea that there's no, it's out of warranty, it's well out of the factory warranty, which is 5 years or 60,000 miles. So I honestly think you're going to be on the hook for it, because the other thing is you have to prove that you've done all the regular oil change maintenance to the vehicle to get any kind of warranty assistance. So unless you can come up with the first 52,000 miles of oil change receipts and the last 70,000 miles worth of oil change receipts, you're probably going to be responsible for replacing the engine. Our phone number again is 781-837-4900. 781-837-4900. Let's talk to Pat from Marshfield. Good morning, Pat.
Hello.
Hello, Pat.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, you want to hear about my issue?
I want to hear, well, as long as it's automotive related, not something else.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I have an 06 Volvo XC70, 175,000 miles on it. Love the car, but for the last several winters, when it's cold out, that automatic transmission thing, I have to let the car run for 30 or 40 minutes before I can shift it out of park and go on my way. Now, possibly related to this, several years ago I was parked in a parking lot where some other trucks usually park.
Okay.
After my walk, I came back to the car, and there was 2 inches all over the floor of the front seat of my car of Coca-Cola. So it didn't dawn on me until I started looking things up that possibly it's some of that Coke that they dumped all over the floor of my car could be caused. Other than that, like I said, I'm just waiting now for the weather to get warmer, and this will disappear. And my good mechanics over the years have, just said, let it go. But I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts on what causes this? It's just in the winter. And when I say 30 minutes, I mean 30 minutes, and then it will shift out of park. Other than that, the car is in good shape.
Yeah. So it really, you can't physically move the shifter, huh?
It will not shift unless that car has been running on a car. Even this morning, I went out to do early voting. I had to let that thing run 30 minutes before it will shift out of park. Now, I've looked things up, things like I've seen solenoid, I've seen something to do with the ignition, like occasionally when I, turn the car off, I have to jiggle it like crazy, or in fact restart the car and then try to, turn the key all the way off to the off position. But like I said, I love the car. I won't get rid of it.
Right.
This is every winter this happens, and once the warm weather comes, it usually doesn't happen. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about causing this, or the cost to repair it. Or
it's going to be all kind of time having somebody look at it. And I think, based on your tip about the Coca-Cola spill, Coca-Cola, the sugar and other chemicals that are in Coca-Cola can be somewhat acidic, and it may have caused some problems inside where the shifter is. There's 2 different shift cables that are inside there, and maybe that mechanism inside there is kind of gummed up and dirty, and the first thing you need to do is disassemble all that and clean it and see what's going on. And then there's also a printed circuit board in the gear selector, assembly in there. So, you look at that, make sure there's not something crazy going on. The temperature tells me it's not necessarily an electronic thing, because if it was electronic, it would act a little bit differently. I think it's more mechanical. I think there's just something literally sticking inside there that's gummed up and and gooey. But I think the only way to fix it is to take it apart and see what's there that doesn't look correct anymore.
Right. No, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I guess I'm just concerned about what the cost for something like that would be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a couple hours labor to just take the gear shift assembly apart and look at it, and if they decide that it's the shift lever itself, or if it's the housing underneath there, I mean, those parts go anywhere from $100 to $400. So, I mean, you could easily spend $1,000 to try to figure out what's wrong with this.
Oh, that's just to figure it out, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to spend $300, $250, $300 to just take it apart and look to see what's there. And if someone says, we saw a lot of issues with the shifter cable, well, that's going to be another $50 or $60 to install a cable. Well, the shifter lever knob itself looks like that might be a problem, so that's another $150. So, unless you see something real definitive that, oh, of course, there it is, we just needed to look a little bit further. But if it's kind of a little bit of guessing at the same time, and the good, I guess the only good thing is that maybe when you leave it at your good garage or maybe even the dealership, although it's kind of old for the dealership, but at a garage that's familiar with these cars, it's still cool enough now where they can leave it outside and check it while it's broken. Which is a whole lot easier than once it all warms up and it all seems to work fine. So if you can leave it someplace if you can leave it someplace overnight, the nights are still cool. When they get in the morning, go, oh, this is what she's talking about. That's the way to do it.
Well, thanks for hearing me out. And I appreciate your.
There was a good independent Volvo repair shop kind of on the Rockland Hanover line. I don't know if they're. I think they're still there. Yeah. So you might
Rockland Hanover line.
Yeah, right on the Rockland. Yeah. It's he's been around forever. And I think it was could be Hanover, could be Rockland, but I'm going to say it's Rockland. And
you think if I just kind of Googled it and did a little bit of research, it would pop up? What's a gas station, a mechanic,
it's WCS Automotive is the name of it.
WCS Automotive.
Yeah, and they're on Rockland. They're right on 139, as I recall, and they've been around. I met him 35 years ago when he was fixing Volvos. So,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh no, so I like this car. It's it's 17 years old, but I love this car. It's a good car. No reason not to get rid of it, and good reason to get it fixed. And maybe call his name is Wally, the guy who runs the shop, and give him a call and see what he says. Okay. Thanks again
for
your time. I appreciate
All right. Take care. All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Let's see. We're going over to where are we going? We're going over to Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hi, John. Nice to talk to you again.
Nice to talk to you as well.
You had to bring up the Red Sox at the end of the call with Mike.
Well,
it's like the '67 Red Sox, cardiac kids. 2 games in already.
Well, and I was just saying to Jesse that. Even where I'm hiding in Florida right now, and there's a sports bar across the street, almost across the street from where I live, and the woman who owns it is actually from Salem, and there's a lot of We'll call them Massachusetts expats that go there, and on a bad Red Sox day, 2 beers later, they love the Red Sox again. So I guess it's one thing about Boston fans, we hate and love our teams, equally. So I guess it's okay.
Okay. Well, I'm calling on a follow up on the center I called you a couple of weeks ago with the transmission that was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Dealer wants $6,000 to repair it. I've got a fairly good friend who has offered to help me in his garage. He doesn't have a lift, though, to put a new one in. And I'm just wondering to buy a new car for her, a good used car for her is going to cost a lot more than the $4,000 to replace this transmission. Is it above our capabilities of doing it? I mean, I've done a lot. He's done a lot. He's pulled engines out and put them back in again twice. They made a mistake when they did the head over and stuff that he had to do it twice. Does the CVT transmission mean bigger problems, or is that just the same as a regular transmission anyways?
It's just, as far as the, taking it apart and putting it back together, watch a lot of YouTube videos, I guess, is the best thing to do, so you can get some tips. Because of the way it sits, you need to support the engine, because, the transmission sort of holds the engine up at the same time. So unlike, a conventional, old-fashioned car with the front engine and rear-wheel drive where you could just unbolt the drive shaft and take the transmission out and not have to worry about the engine. The engine in this is kind of sitting sideways, so you have to make sure that the engine's not going to go anywhere. Is it, at the end of the day, it's just nuts and bolts, but it's a fairly sophisticated transmission, and it may need, and I'm not sure about this, but it may need, once it's installed, it may need a little bit of reprogramming.
Oh, they definitely did mention that when I talked to them about it. Is that scanner proprietary to Nissan, or can I buy a good scanner that will do a lot, program fobs and everything else?
Yeah, you can.
Am I getting in my head over with that too?
Well, it's kind of funny when Right to Repair first started, and it was, open information for everybody kind of thing. One of the scanners the factory scanner that a friend of mine kept trying to buy was the Nissan scanner. And they said, oh, yeah, they're available. Or they said, oh, the software is all available, but you need to use our scanner. And the problem is he couldn't buy the scanner. Now there's companies like Autel, which makes these really good scanners that have this capability, and it looks like they're going to be the scanner of record, sort of, if you will, for Right to Repair. Now, some of the other companies that have bidirectional scanners, I don't know that it's going to have the capability to download software, though. So, this, certainly you could install the transmission, and maybe if you need to, then have it towed to the dealer to have them program it, if programming is really necessary.
Well, they did tell me it was. It was about almost $300 to do it.
Yeah. And unless you really have the need to go out and buy a, $2,000 scan tool, it might be worth spending the $300 to have them program it.
Okay, and would those scanners do fobs, reprogram them, or that's a different scanner altogether?
Some of them do, some of them don't. It's funny, I looked at one the other day from some Chinese company that I'd never heard of, and if you believe what it said in all of the directions, the thing could reprogram key fobs, it could do tire pressure monitoring, it could reset speedometers, it could, I was looking at it, I'm like, this thing's amazing for $600. Now, wow. It's, the big print giveth and the little print taketh away kind of thing. So, sometimes you kind of look at that and you go, well, yeah, that looks good, but is it really going to work? And, and I wasn't able, and frankly, I wasn't going to spend my $600 to find out. So, but I did actually write to the company and asked them, if they'd send it to me, because it looked pretty impressive, but I never heard back. So
probably too good to be true.
Probably the case. So, is putting a transmission in this car over your skill level? I think that two of you working together could probably get it done. Like I said, I would, watch a lot of videos just to look for little issues you want to look at. Make sure that there's nothing kind of that you should know up front. But other than that, I think you're okay.
All right, I did watch a few videos, and it didn't look all that hard. I mean, some of them had fancy equipment to lower the transmission out that it fit into, but I figured, well, we can Mickey Mouse something probably. So okay.
Yeah, not to promote Harbor Freight too heavily, but you can buy a pretty decent transmission jack at Harbor Freight for fairly short money, or you can buy an adapter for a regular jack if you have a regular floor jack, or you can make up something that will kind of cradle the transmission and be able to get it out. So,
All right, I appreciate your input on it.
I
guess I just have to get it from Bangor, Maine, down to here.
Well, I'm trying to say, is there any easy way? Probably not. But yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it's over 200 miles. I have the 200 miles on AAA, but it's about 240 miles.
Well, and I don't even, over that, we'll do the 200 miles of towing, and the other 40, it's $3 a mile maybe.
Oh,
we will. I mean, we will tow it the rest of the way. You just have to pay for the rest of it. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Well, okay.
All right. Thanks very much, John.
All right. Take care. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. And sorry to disappoint everybody with the Red Sox story, but one way, if Jesse, if you won half the time, you'd be happy, right?
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we take another break? My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. If you want to join us, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. Phone lines are open. We will be right back.
Quality. It's a word that most people don't use when they talk about painters, but our customers do. Hi, I'm Sheldon Stewart from Stewart Painting, and we take great pride in providing quality work. To us, quality means that our professional team shows up on time and gets the job done to your complete satisfaction. We do our work on time, clean up, respect your property, and leave you to enjoy your beautiful, newly painted home. We are committed to our customers, the community, and to quality. At Stewart Painting, quality is not a word we use lightly. It has been one of our guiding principles for over 35 years. So please, call Stewart Painting today at either our Hingham or Hyannis offices to schedule your free estimate. Or to receive a virtual quote, visit stewartpaint.com. Select a virtual quote now, send it to our sales team, and receive a price within 24 hours. And remember, Stewart Painting. Expect the best.
AAA is with you at every moment in your life. They have 24/7 roadside assistance, which covers you in any car you're driving or riding in, even a rental or your friend's wheels. They have great member rates on home and auto insurance, savings on travel, hotels, and rental cars, and discounts on hundreds of your favorite brands. You're covered on and off the road. Learn more at aaa.com/join.
Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program. And the AAA commercial reminded me, if you want to learn more about electric vehicles, AAA has a new website. Try AAA.com/EV, and it should get you there, and you should be able to find out, or you can just go to AAA.com and click around a little bit, and you can find all the other stuff that's on the AAA website. But this new electric vehicle website, the folks who put it together put a lot of effort into it. It's got a lot of interesting stuff, and you can do a lot of comparisons, see if an electric vehicle is kind of in your in your sights of something you want to get. I have to say this BMW iX electric vehicle is a very impressive car, way out of my price range, but ridiculously fast, very comfortable. I took it out last night, and I took it to an event, and there was 2 electric vehicle charging stations there, and they were both full, so I couldn't charge up. There, and that's kind of one of the issues. It's only as good as where your charging outlets are located. I'm able to charge on 110 volts, which charges really, really slow, but on 240 volts or faster, it's got pretty quick charge up times. Let's go to Tom in Pembroke. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, John. Real quick, I remember hearing years ago with an all-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive car, you have to replace all the tires at the same time, like if you had a blowout or something.
It depends on the manufacturer and how the all-wheel drive system works. So if it's, in a lot of cases, if it's a front-wheel drive-based all-wheel drive system, a lot of times you can get away with just replacing maybe the two front. So you're definitely going to replace two, no question about that. So if you had 3 good tires that were, say, had 25% wear, 30% wear, and you blew out one of the tires, you would be better off replacing the two. Put two matching ones, either up front or up back. Always ideal to put the 2 new ones in the back, just because they're most likely to get where the flat tires are going to happen. But it makes sense. Some cars, Subaru, for instance, a few years back actually put out a bulletin that said, we recommend, and it's percentage of wear, it depends how wear is on the tires, that they would say it's really a good idea to replace all 4 tires, because if not, you can stress the transfer case. Jeeps were known to do that. A lot of people put mismatched tires on Jeeps, and all of a sudden, sometime later, all of a sudden the transfer case was going bad, and it was like, well, what caused that? Well, you got 2 different size tires on the car. Even some of the big online tire companies like Tire Rack, what they would do, if you had really expensive tires on an all-wheel drive vehicle and you ruined one, they would actually shave down the new one so it matched the height of the other 3. So instead of having to buy 4 tires, you only had to buy 1, and they just kind of, you got it partially worn, if you will, because it would match the height of the other tires. So that could save you a little bit of money. But it depends on the manufacturer. Some are very specific. They'll say you have to do it. And some of the good websites, like Sullivan Tires website, for instance, or Tire Rack's website, I believe right on there it says which all-wheel drive vehicles need to have tires replaced in sets.
Oh, okay, yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Subaru. I bought a new Forester, and that leads to my next question. If I buy the tire and wheel deal from them or AAA, would they cover all 4 wheels? Tires, I mean?
That's a good question. I'm willing to bet the answer is they cover a pair, not a set of 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering. I was going to buy it through AAA, and I probably should just call them, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I can. If you want to shoot me an email or something at my work email, which is jpaul@aaanortheast.com, and I can actually get out the guy who's the I guess he's the director of that department. He can give me the lowdown on that. We talk pretty regularly anyway. So, but my email jpaul@aaanortheast.com, and our wheel and tire coverage is also includes key fob coverage and depending on the age of the vehicle, paintless dent removal. So if you get a shopping cart ding or something, we'll come out. Well, not us, but somebody will come out and take the ding out of it. You don't want me to come out and take the ding out of it. Yeah.
The ding wizard or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody. And and I got to tell you, some of these, I'm in Florida here. I have an old, our home, if you will, is a old mobile home here in Florida, and it was right in the middle of the hurricane belt. So I got a hurricane and a tornado hit the house, and the car that we leave here is my wife's 2015 Volkswagen Beetle, and it got about $1,800 worth of damage to the car from stuff falling on it and things hitting it and all kinds of things. But what was fortunate was there was pretty minimal paint scratching. So, but there was a dent in the left front fender that looked like you took a baseball bat and swung at the fender, and there was a dent in the door and a dent in the hood. I had a body shop look at the three dents, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're looking at about $1,900 to do it." I took it to a dent wizard, if you will, the Sarasota Ding Doctor, I think he's called, has a little shop in actually Venice, Florida, and I went up there and I left him the car for the day. He took out the three dents. For $900 was a lot of money, but on the other hand, he took out the 3 dents for $900, and the car didn't have to go to a body shop. So, he was able to do it. So some of these dent people are pretty good the way they do their stuff. So. Yeah,
I've seen them heat up bumpers and stuff to blow it out. And,
No, pretty amazing stuff.
Yep, good to know. I'll send you an email.
All right,
thank you.
Good thing. All right, take care. Bye. So I got this email this morning, and it must be someplace where the weather is nice. Maybe it's in Marshfield. Jesse, is the weather nice today?
A little chilly.
Yeah. So it says, I'm writing this email watching my neighbor dry off his car with a leaf blower. Is that a good idea? So somebody must have washed their car and decided to dry it off with a leaf blower. Is that a good idea? Your neighbors might not like it, but it's no different than going through a drive-through car wash where big vacuums, big blowers blow all the water off the paint. So just be careful you don't scratch the paint. And
that's how I dry off after a shower.
Leaf blower?
Yeah, get the old leaf blower going. Save on towels.
Yeah. Well, good idea. I hope it's not the gasoline one though.
Yeah.
But no, you can do that. And the other thing is, what's kind of nice if you are washing your car, sometimes little leaves and stuff get stuck in little nooks and crannies in your car. The leaf blower, you can blow them all, get it all nice and clean, get it all ready. And it's days like we get Jesse was saying it's going to be chilly tomorrow. But you get a couple of warm days, and you decide you're going to get the hose out and wash the car, or run it to the local car wash and come back and clean it, and finish cleaning it up and get a coat of wax on it. Good idea for the spring, and good idea to do it again as you're going into summer. Hey, that music means we have used up an hour of your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Jesse, thanks as always for doing the great job you do on the board. And our thanks to Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports. Check out the April issue of Consumer Reports, one of the most popular issues and the one that I bring with me everywhere I go. Until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, be good to your car, and if you see an emergency vehicle by the side of the road, slow down or move over. It saves lives. Talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.